we meet in the Dhamma. The Dhamma brings people together, the teachings of the Buddha, our faith in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And we have this phrase, Yati Dhamma, means like relatives in Dhamma. So even though we're not literally blood relatives, but we are relatives in the Dhamma, we're like brothers and sisters in Dhamma, because we have one thing in common. We have the faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, and interested to practice these teachings. That's what brings people here. That's what's brought all of you here today. Which is not a small thing. If you have faith, in a way it's almost like a kind of a magnetic force. Like when you're a kid, you see a magnet, two pieces, a magnet and a piece of metal come together, and you wonder, how can that happen? It's like that's a natural force. And having faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha is similar. It brings you to come to places like this, meet with monks, want to hear the teachings, make offerings, because there's something that good that comes out of it. But it's something invisible. You can't really put your finger on it exactly, because it's an invisible force. It's your own goodness in your heart, but then the goodness in everybody's heart is brought out by the Dhamma, by the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. So you have maybe a Buddha statue, you have monks who wear the robes of the Buddha, you have practices like you just chanted some of the teachings. In a moment I'll give you the 5 precepts. All of this is drawing the goodness out of your heart, and that's what you develop and build on in what we call Dhamma practice, and brings you happiness. And nobody can force you to practice Buddhism. It's not like somebody commands you. Maybe when you're young they say, oh, you have to follow the adults to the temple or something. Okay, occasionally there's a little bit of of that, but really nobody forces us to do this. It's from our own desire for happiness. Everyone in the world wants to be happy, and we have the good fortune to have come in contact with Buddha, the Buddhist teachings, and you've probably already experienced some happiness from that. And that gives you confidence. This has made me happy before, like practicing generosity, charity, helping other people makes us happy. Using the precepts as guidelines in daily life, they help us to be more disciplined, more mindful, and that helps us to be happy. It's called the happiness, freedom of regret. Because if you follow the guidelines of the 5 precepts, you don't create any negative karma, so your mind feels very relaxed, at ease. And then the happiness of listening to Dhamma, so that you understand things better, practicing the Dhamma, practicing meditation, samatha meditation, making your mind calm, vipassana meditation, developing insight. All of this brings out the best in us as human beings. And we all want to be happy, we all want the best. Not always easy, as we know. Sometimes Dhamma practice can be very challenging. Sometimes our own mind is a bit resistant. Sometimes we feel tired, can't be bothered. Sometimes we feel complacent, think, oh, I don't need it. As a monk, you always hear this, people say, oh, Dhamma practice, meditation, Dhamma teachings, that's for those other people, not for me. But these are just our own stubbornness, our own attachments inside our mind. They resist. Just like when we were a kid and our mum and dad wanted us to do something good and we say, I don't want to do it. Sometimes we don't yet see, in that moment we don't see the right thing to do. But if you keep practicing, then you become more experienced, wiser, understand things better. Then your faith, what led you to practice in the first place, that becomes more solid. Because it's not just based on belief and following a teacher, but it becomes part of your own experience. and you've practiced before, maybe had some good experience before where you let go of some suffering, develop more understanding, so it made you more peaceful, because understanding leads to peace. So you gain that, and then your faith doesn't disappear very easily, because you know you've got something good inside, and you know you've got a way to practice, to follow, to live your life. So the Buddha said faith is always accompanied, true faith is always accompanied by wisdom. And the wisdom comes through our own experience. So that's what's brought us together today. We all have faith in the Buddha. We have something similar, something in common. And that's something you have to cherish, look after. Maybe you have at home, you have a nice plant that you like. You have to water it and cherish it, look after it. Or you have a pet. Or you have something valuable that you look after, you cherish. Or just each other. We cherish each other, like in the family. Well, the Dhamma also we have to cherish. We cherish it, we nurture it through the practice. Otherwise it becomes something kind of a bit empty. Like, we have cupboards and we put the Dhamma books in the cupboard, never open them, never practice with them. So they become dusty and neglected, and we forget about what the Buddha taught. And that's the opposite. That's not cherishing, that's forgetting or becoming complacent. But the Dhamma is something we have to cherish through our practice. So as you cherish the Dhamma, you look after it, you listen to Dhamma, you come to places like this, make offerings, meditate, hear the Dhamma. You're also cherishing your own heart, your own goodness. And that's something you have to nurture, just like looking after a plant that you really love, or something that you really love in your life. You have to really nurture it, look after it, and then it will come to fruition, and it will be something very good for you. So that's what we're doing this morning, right now. We're cherishing and nurturing the Dhamma. I flew over from Melbourne last night. Feels like somebody's turned the air conditioning off. When I left Melbourne it was 9 degrees, very cold. They're having a very cold winter this year, colder than usual. So coming to Malaysia is a lot warmer, so it's like somebody just turned the temperature control right down, or right up here. But it's the Dhamma that brings me here, meet with Dhamma friends that we've met before many times. After this I'll go on to Thailand, to Ubon, to Ajahn Chah's monastery, my teacher Ajahn Chah, and I'll meet with many Dhamma friends there. And so it's the Dhamma that kind of binds us together, links us together, and that's our good fortune. And you have to think, if we didn't have the Dhamma, the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, if we didn't have teachers like Ajahn Chah, we didn't have fellow Dhamma practitioners to help us, support us in the practice, we wouldn't know where to go or what to do. It would become, it wouldn't no longer be part of our life. If you are unlucky and you're born in some part of the world where there's just no Dhamma teaching available, no one around, no one knows Buddhism, you might feel your life really lacks something or misses something. Hopefully you see you've gained already from the Dhamma practice you've done, and if you keep practicing it will keep bringing you some happiness, some better things, and it makes your life more meaningful, and we can improve ourselves. Improvement in Buddhism means develop ourselves in a good way to experience more happiness, and also share some of that back with our loved ones, friends, and even strangers. We can help others through our own Dhamma practice. We help others, sometimes by being just a good example. Even without a single word being said, if, say, we keep the 5 precepts every day, people will notice that. They'll know, oh, you're not someone who steals, or you're not aggressive, you don't lie, you don't hurt others. People around you get to see you and know you when you keep 5 precepts, and they, over time, they'll appreciate that. It's not always fashionable in society. 5 precepts sounds very old-fashioned. Like nowadays, everyone drinks, everyone tells a few lies. People, maybe you get bugs in your house, you just kill them. Those are very normal things humans do. But when you meet someone who's trying to keep the 5 precepts and follow those guidelines, they make an impact on others. And I see this all the time. People who have, they've committed to their Dhamma practice, they try. They may not be perfect, none of us are perfect, but they're trying. Other people recognize that, give them respect, give them their appreciation, because they know this is something good. And this is how we can help the world. You probably, we all watch the news nowadays, and the news, everyone complains the news is so negative, there's all kinds of problems, conflicts, and economic problems, and social problems. And everyone feels helpless. You think, how can I help the world? Practicing Dhamma is how you can help the world. Practicing kindness every day, trying to follow the 5 precepts, learning the Dhamma, meditating. This is how you can change yourself and then change the world around you. Very subtle, so it may not be like massive sweeping changes to the world, which is what we'd all want. We all want all the bad news to just disappear overnight. It's not going to disappear overnight. But if you're developing your own kindness and your own good qualities every day, you'll be helping the people around you, family, friends, setting a good example, uplifting yourself, uplifting them. This is the way we can improve our world, little by little. He was both a very well-studied monk, had good knowledge of the Buddhist scriptures, but also a meditation monk. And he would go into the forest and stay in the forest, as well as run big monasteries. The famous one in Bangkok is Wat Rakang, is the monastery of the Big Bell. At our monastery in Melbourne, we have a statue of him. He's not sitting like this, he's sitting like this. And people always ask, what does this posture mean? It's an unusual kind of pose. And the word for karma in Thailand is gum. And gum, you can sort of hear the sound is similar to karma, gum. The gum is also the word for a fist. So one fist on top of the other, the right fist symbolises good karma, and the left fist symbolises bad karma. And we use our hands a lot in life to do good and bad. Every day you eat food, drive your car, type on your computer. You can do many good things with your hands, but you can also do many bad things with your hands. You can hit somebody or kill an animal or type something really nasty into your email or tell a lie on the email or something. So you can use hands in both ways. So the idea is the good karma of the right hand, right fist, stays on top all the time. So if you stay on top all the time, then your bad karma or the bad intention won't come out. You won't be able to make bad karma because you're always making good karma. So this was one of his, he had very creative ways to teach Dhamma. So that was one simple, creative way to remind people, always keep the good on top of the bad. And this little card, which has been blessed by Luang Pu Supha, just has a teaching from him saying, if you don't develop good karma, then the devas, the earth devas and the heavenly devas will not help you. Because devas are like those good beings in the good realms, heaven realms, who always wish to help humans. That's the one way that devas can make good karma. Because they don't have a solid physical body like us, they have a subtle body. As you can imagine, when somebody dies and they go to a heaven realm, it's called a spontaneous birth. So immediately their mind is born in that realm. There's no physical body, or it's a very subtle, we call it a subtle or ethereal body, very sort of wispy. Almost invisible to the ordinary physical eye, but if you meditate, you may develop the Dhamma eye and you can see beings in other realms. But devas can't do much in terms of making merit anymore while they're in that realm. They're more receiving the fruits of their past merit, the good karma. But one way that devas can make merit is when they rejoice in the merit that humans make. So this is why when you have a temple or even a place like this where people come to make offerings, listen to Dhamma, chant, meditate, practice the Dhamma, good things are generated, good karma is made. So the devas come and rejoice in that. They like to see people and know that people are doing good because it makes them happy. Just like us, when we hear of our family or friends doing something good, it can make us happy, even if we're not there, we just hear the news. So devas are like that. So the devas always want us to do more good karma, and remembering that many of those devas are related to us. It's our granny or our ancestor who's died, and they're a deva, and they're still connected to us, and they want us to make more merit for ourselves, but they will also rejoice in the merit we make. So if we don't make any good karma, then they've got nothing to rejoice about. So they'll be sitting there kind of like twiddling their thumbs like, hey, when are they ever going to do any good? Whenever they're going to make some good karma? And they were just waiting. They can't rejoice, so they can't make the good karma of rejoicing in our merit. So they're just kind of sitting there. So it's a bit like you go and see your granny or your granddad, and they're always asking things like, have you ever done any good? What good have you done? Did you go to the temple? Did you do any offerings? Did you meditate? They're like that because they want us to do good, and devas are like that. So Somdet is just giving us that reminder that we have to make good karma, and then the devas will help us. Because a lot of people do it the other way around. They say, I got problems in my life, and then they start asking the devas for blessings, for help. And if you're honest, you probably say there's been a few times in your life when you've had some trouble, some problem, and you think, devas, please help me. If you're from another religion, Christian, Muslim, you might go, God, help me. I need God's help. If you're Buddhist, you usually say devas, the gods. But the thing is, if you haven't made any good karma yet, then the devas are like, well, there's no reason to help you. You're not doing any good. So we get it the wrong way around. We have a problem, and then straight away we're asking either the Buddha or a teacher or a deva to help us. But we aren't thinking yet of developing ourselves in a good way, making the good karma to get through our problems and develop our life in a good way. We do it the wrong way around. So we're like children. When you have a child, they always say, "Mum, I want this. Mum, I want that." And Mum is saying, "Have you done your homework? Have you cleaned your room? Have you done the good things you need to do yet?" When we're young, we're always asking for things before we've done anything. But we accept that for a child because they're a child. But as an adult, we've got to be a little bit more responsible, more mature. So this is, again, where these kind of teachings come from. And it's all right to ask for blessings, ask for the Buddha to help, ask for the devas to help, but you also have to look at your own actions and ask yourself, well, what good are you doing? What actions are you doing every day? Are you creating good causes, good karma every day? Or are you just sitting there waiting for the devas to do all the work? So, in Chinese tradition we have the Bodhisattva ideal, Kuan Yin, Amitabha Buddha, and that's fine. But then it can make us a bit lazy, can't it? So we sit there saying, oh, I've got so many problems, so much trouble in my life. Kuan Yin, you've got to help me. And we make statues of Kuan Yin with 1,000 arms, saying, oh, there's got to be at least one hand free for me. And maybe Kuan Yin is sitting there saying, yeah, I can help you, but you've got to do some good as well. It's not just up to me. Because a bodhisattva is a leader, a teacher. You know, the Buddha was a bodhisattva before he was Buddha. So the bodhisattva isn't really interested in just helping people all the time if they're not going to help themselves. You know, it's a two-way thing. We've got to develop our good karma as well. So that's another thing about this monk, Somdet Do. They believe he was a bodhisattva, so not an Arahant. You're probably aware of the difference in Theravada Buddhism. The Arahant is someone who's reached Nibbana, they're enlightened, and we say they won't be born again, because that's the goal of the practice. But a bodhisattva is someone on the path towards enlightenment, and they may be reborn again over many lifetimes. You've probably heard the stories of the Buddha's past lives, and in other Arahants, before they're Arahants, they have maybe many lives practicing. So Somdet Do was considered to be a bodhisattva, making merit for enlightenment, maybe to become a Buddha in a future life. You've probably also heard of Lumpur Tuat. It's another venerated old monk, again from about 300 years ago in Thai Buddhist history. If you see Lumpur Tuat, he sits like this with a curved back. He's an old monk, he sits like this. Very distinctive kind of look. You go to Hat Yai and a few other places in southern Thailand, you see huge statues of Lumpur Tuat. So he also is considered bodhisattva. So like an Arahant, but not having reached Nibbana yet, still making merit for future lives. So that's another reason people love to invoke the bodhisattvas to help them. Again, we want the bodhisattvas to help us. We've got problems, we fall ill, we have money problems, we have a job interview coming up, we've got to pass our exams, could be anything, and it's all, you know, bodhisattva, please help me, bodhisattva, please help me. Had one lady come to our monastery in Melbourne, she failed her driving test 6 times. So she comes, wants blessing from the Arahants, Bodhisattvas, Buddha, everybody, because 6 times she failed her driving test. So I said, maybe the best thing, as well as asking help from the Bodhisattva, is the night before your test, just do some meditation, calm your mind, bring up the mindfulness, settle your mind, because you're obviously very anxious, excited. If you can settle your mind in your meditation, then when you come to do your driving test, you'll be more calm. And the Buddha always said, when your mind is calm, then you can think straight. You can see what you need to do, what your next action should be, what is the right thing to do in a situation. Because you're mindful, you're calm, you'll see clearly. So she did that, and the 7th time she passed. So happy ending, good ending. So asking for help from bodhisattvas, devas, the Buddha, Arahants, it's not wrong, but you also have to play your part. You can't, just hope that things happen. Don't make any effort. Just sit there praying to Buddha, but hoping things will happen when you're not doing anything. It's unlikely you'll pass your exam, or you'll get the job, or pay off your debts, or recover from your illness. You have to make the effort as well. So Buddhism is a practice religion. It's a religion to be practiced. And faith plays a part. Requesting help from deities, devas, plays a part. But it's only one part. The other part is our own actions. And we, for anything to be completed or successful in life, we have to create the causes through our own actions. If you want to be successful in business, you've got to invest all that time and effort and energy and learn your business and do it. And everybody knows the first year is always tough because you haven't got off the ground yet, don't know anyone yet, haven't sold your product, whatever. Relationships the same. If you're married, you can't just say, I want my marriage to be successful, and then just sit back and do nothing. If you want a successful relationship, you have to put effort into it. And that's what marriage really is, isn't it? It's not just hoping for the best. We say, when you marry someone, you say, I will love you for life, honor you, obey, cherish you for the rest of life. Okay, it's a good start, but that's only the first day. Then you have to put that into practice every day. And that means when things are going well, you develop those qualities. And when things are going through difficulties, you still develop those qualities. And that's the test, isn't it? Real test of a relationship, whether it's friends or marriage or even work. At work, you have to be able to keep nourishing and developing the right qualities, putting them into that relationship. So you have to be patient, you have to be forgiving, you have to be understanding, loving, you have to develop all kinds of qualities. It's, you can't just say, Devas, please make this marriage work. That's good if they can bless you, but you also have to do your part. But in our monastery, sometimes young people come, and some families, not so much from Malaysia, but maybe from Sri Lanka or India, they want to marry, but their parents are saying, no, it can't work. The astrologer says it won't work. The charts, the stars say it won't work. And they come to me and ask, what should they do? And I said, well, do you love each other? Yes. I said, well, you've got to make the marriage work, and you've got to prove the astrologer wrong. And you can. And we know that because the Buddha had to prove the astrologer wrong, because the astrologers were saying, well, he'll either be a great enlightened religious leader or a great king. There's only one out of the 8 astrologers who said the Buddha is going to become an enlightened religious leader. Only one said for sure. The rest, they all said maybe. That's astrology for you. It gives you possibilities. So it's like the potential for one thing or another is there, but it's not a guarantee, because the astrologer is not you. They can only give you a potential or a possibility. So with marriage, I always say, well, it's up to you. You have to make it work. You have to be kind and respectful to each other, love each other, help each other. And if you can do that, then you can make it work. It's possible. And sometimes they do. And they get through all the doubts and the astrological predictions that say it's not going to work, just as the Buddha did, just as I did. When I was a young monk, my brother came to visit me, and he was interested to see an astrologer, so I took him to one in Nakhon Pathom, where they have this big stupa where Buddhism first came to Thailand, big golden pagoda, and they have some astrologers there. So I took him there, and he got his astrological chart read, and then they said, well, we'll do you as well, the monk. And they said, you're going to marry twice this life. And I said, are you sure? I'm planning on being a monk. So still, time is running out. It's going to fit 2 marriages in. I'm not sure it's going to happen. But we don't know. We'll see. But I don't think so. So I'm proving the astrologer wrong as well. That's life, isn't it? They give you some kind of possibilities from the astrological chart, but really it's down to your actions. And they say the one person the astrologer is scared of, bad for business, is the person who meditates. Because the person who meditates changes things very quickly. Because you can learn your lessons. When you meditate, you realize you're going wrong in your thinking. Maybe you're angry with someone, and when you meditate, you realize you have to let go of your anger, forgive them, let it go. Maybe somebody is very depressed, but then when they meditate they realize they're holding on to their negative thoughts, so they start to think in a better way, and then their work or their marriage or whatever it is starts to go better. If we learn how to meditate and understand our mind better, our karma changes quite quickly for the better. And this is why the astrologer is scared of the meditator, because they know, this person, I can't really tell for sure. Unless it's Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah, you see, if you ever see his Thai biography, there's a print of his handprint. He had very special lines on his hands, and there's one line which is like the line they say Barami or Vasana. It's like, all your accumulated good qualities. And his line goes right up his finger. Basically the astrologer said, well, this is off the scale. Amazing. So his hands and his life did match. That's very unusual. Mostly the astrologer says, if someone meditates, I can't be quite sure what will happen, because you can change for the better very quickly. So if you want to do well in life, learn to meditate. It's very simple. Why don't people meditate? Well, they have doubts, they have excuses, they have worries, anxiety, they have no time. And the Buddha has already predicted this. He said, why don't people meditate? And he said, they always have an excuse. They say it's too early, or it's too late, or I haven't eaten yet, or it's too hot, or it's too cold, or I'm too busy, or I've got to look after the kids, and all these other excuses. Our mind just loves to have excuses when it comes to something as useful as meditation. We always have an excuse. Funny, isn't it? When it's something that's not very useful for us, like lying in bed, sleeping more than we need to, or eating more than we need to, or spending all time scrolling on the phone, or playing some game, we don't have excuses to stop that, do we? We just do it. But when they say, come and meditate, and they say, oh, no, it's too late, too early, too difficult. And probably the most common reason people don't meditate that I hear is, well, when I do it, my mind's not peaceful. I don't meditate because I'm thinking too much, I'm not peaceful. But I always say, but that's why you meditate. You're just starting to see the reality of your mind. What we call the real world is the mind, your mind. And if you're thinking a lot, you have some negative thoughts, some worries, some stress, that's exactly why you should meditate. And you don't have to judge yourself and say, oh, I think too much, therefore I can't meditate. You don't have to say that. You just say, okay, I have a lot of thoughts and my mind is full of worries and doubts. That's normal. Everybody is the same. Nobody is any different. We all start from the same sort of place. But that's why we meditate, so that we can become more aware of ourselves. And just becoming aware of the fact that, when you meditate, you have a lot of thoughts coming up, and that's already a small victory. And the next step might be to see the nature of all your thoughts. Some of them are more good, useful. Some of them are more negative, more painful or hurtful. That's already another victory. It's like seeing, oh, I have a lot of negative thoughts here. And then the last victory is having enough awareness to say, let it go. If you can see your stress, holding on to your stressful thoughts, your worries, your anxieties, your fears, if you can see that that's suffering, then the final victory is saying, let this go, let it be. If you let something go, it means you just stop touching it and stop getting involved with it. So Ajahn Chah, my teacher, used to say it's like fire. If you're very stressed about something, you've created this problem in your mind about work or study or your relationship or your health or something, it's like you've got a little fire going in your mind. So if you have a fire, what should you do to that fire? If you want it to go out, well, you don't add any more fuel to it, and you just leave it alone, and it will go out all by itself. But if you keep poking it and touching it and saying, I don't want this. You burn your hand, so that's not good. And then some people even get it wrong and they actually add more things to the fire and it gets bigger and worse. You don't want to do that either. So one thing you learn from meditation is if you see some suffering there, you have to accept it because it's there already and now you're seeing it. So that's one thing, you have to be quite accepting, quite brave. But the second thing is you tell yourself, don't add to it, don't make it worse, don't increase the suffering. So if you're mindful enough, and that's something you have to practice, bring up the awareness, the mindfulness, and you say, oh, this is suffering, just let it be. Let things pass. So we have this reflection in Buddhism, we say, accepting the way things are. Okay, and my mind is not peaceful, okay, just accept it, let it be. And you'll find it passes by very quickly. But if you sit there going, it shouldn't be like this, I'm thinking too much, I'm too stressed, this is not good, my life is not good, blah, 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 you're making it worse, then of course you're feeding the fire, that fire will continue. So a lot of meditation is about just bringing up this quality of mindful awareness, seeing, knowing, and then just let things be, and then gradually they'll fade out of your mind, and what's left is mindfulness, the good things. So you take out the bad things, what's left is the good things, the good qualities, the mindfulness, the understanding. So another way we talk about it is mental detox. Everyone does physical detox, go on diets, veggie juice diet and this diet and that diet to detox the body, which is good. But we don't do much with our mind. We tend to let the mind just sit there with all the poisons. But meditation is like the mental detox, where you develop that awareness and you start letting go of the more negative, stressful kinds of thoughts. If you do that, little by little, what's left is the good stuff, the stuff you want, the mindfulness, the kindness, compassion, the wisdom, the understanding. Or like, I don't know about here in KL, but in Australia everyone is into gardening. They have a house, they have a garden. So it's like you do your weeding so that what's left is the flowers and the bushes that you want. Like you take the weeds out, well what's left is the good stuff. So meditation is a bit like that. It's your mental weeding. You're taking out the anger, the anxiety, jealousy, self-criticism, whatever negative, unpleasant thought you can think of. You're seeing it, becoming more mindful, and then carefully weeding it out, letting it go. You're not holding on to it, not feeding it, not making it stronger and worse, but accepting it and then letting it go. So it's like your mental weeding or your mental detox. So it's for good mental health. Our mental health is just as important as our physical health. In fact, in the long run, I'd say it's more important than your physical health, because the physical body, as we all know, only gets older every day, doesn't it? I still haven't met anyone who's getting younger. We would like that, and we do our best to stay young, look young, feel young, and it's not wrong to put effort into keeping fit, healthy, eating well, exercising. Of course, that's all good. But in the end, it's a losing battle, isn't it? We can't stay young forever. We age, but your mind is different. Your mind doesn't age. Your mind is this quality of just knowing, and that's always there. So your body may be 40, 50, 60 years old, but your mind is not 40, 50, 60 years old. Your mind is just in the present moment. It's consciousness, and it doesn't have an age. What the Buddha called it is akaliko. The Dhamma is akaliko, it's timeless. So if you can train your mind in mindfulness, this quality of knowing, you experience the happiness of agelessness. So you may have a physical body that's getting older, may have some aches and pains, sickness, we all get something, but the mind doesn't have to suffer with that. The mind and body are two separate things, And if you can see that, you can train your mind to see the mind is one thing, and you can know that. Body is another. They're related, but they're not the same thing. Then you can see, the mind doesn't have to suffer with the suffering of the body. So you may have illness, you may get old and weak, and we just have to accept that. But the mind doesn't have to be unhappy and suffer with the aging of the body. It just knows it. It's like this. Even Ajahn Chah, our teacher, he had a stroke and then he lost his memory. A lot of his memory was going. And the monks asked him, how do you manage with this? And he said, well, I know that memory is impermanent. Memory doesn't last. We forget things. So when I forget something, I just know, that's the way it is. Memory is impermanent. But someone who hasn't looked at this, when they forget things or lose their memory, what happens? Get angry. They go, I lost my memory, and they blame themselves, and sometimes even other people blame them. They're very strange. You see somebody who's losing their memory, and you blame them. It's inappropriate, because it may be just a physical thing. Their body is getting old and brain goes downhill. It's just normal. It's part of life. Sometimes we lose our memory. It's inconvenient, I know, but it's not something to get angry about. It's just the way it is. Or some people get angry when they have pain. So they say, my knees hurt. And sometimes they come to the temple, like you today, probably some of you, when you get up, you go, oh. And they go, my terrible knees. And they start making their knees into their enemy. But they're not your enemy. It's just aging. It's just the way it is. And if you know that with mindfulness, you don't have to suffer with it. You don't have to get angry. You just say, it's like this. Or your eyes go. Like now my eyes are going, so I need reading glasses, but sometimes I don't have my reading glasses on, so I'm at the airport and they give you a form to look at, and you're like, haven't got your glasses there, you just try to read the form, can't see it. You just have to accept it, don't you? Your eyes go with age. Sometimes your ears go with age. Your knees go with age. This is just part of life. But who is it that understands that? It's the mind that you train with mindfulness and seeing the impermanence of the world. It's just like that. It's just the way it is. Or like you have a house, like whether it's Jitaram or your own house, wherever you live, you have your house, and you'll have, one day you'll see a crack in the wall or the floor that wasn't there before. It's a new one. Like last year in Melbourne we had an earthquake, just for a minute, 2 minutes, very small, very brief earthquake, but it shook all the buildings. And in the monastery we started to get these little cracks that we never had before. So you look at it and you think, oh no, got a crack, oh no, got to do something. Well, maybe you will have to repair it, sure, but in terms of your mind, you just have to say, but it's just the way it is, isn't it? Buildings get old, they get cracks, the paintwork fades, things break, light bulbs go, you need to change your light bulb. This is just the normality of living in the world. You buy a car and you use it and then it gets old and rusty and you have to change it. Everything is constantly changing. Who knows that? It's the mind. If your mind is seeing the truth, you say, oh yeah, it's just the way it is. My body gets old, the house gets old, the car gets old, people I love, they're getting older every day. If you know that, this is what we call insight or wisdom, that frees you from suffering, the suffering where you might resist the aging or the change and complain, get upset, complain to your friends, oh, it's not fair, I'm getting old, I've got to replace my hip or my knee, or do this or do that, or get glasses, or take some medicine that I didn't have to take before, now I have to go for tests. Okay, it's inconvenient, it's not what we want, but it's just part of nature. If you can see that, then you can deal with it without creating the extra suffering, without throwing extra fuel on the fire, making your mind even worse than before, more suffering, more unpleasant, more negative than before. This is why monks are always harping on, everything is impermanent, everything changes. And if you can see that, then it doesn't surprise you. So like Ajahn Chah, when he had many monks living with him, once in a while there was a monk who'd have some health problem, come to Ajahn Chah and say, "Oh, Ajahn Chah, I've got malaria," or "Ajahn Chah, I've got diarrhea, stomach bug," or "Ajahn Chah, I've got blood problems," or something. He'd answer, he'd say, "Oh yeah, I was expecting that." And the monk, huh? The monk is hoping for some sympathy from the teacher, but really he's just giving them Dhamma. He's saying, yeah, we all get ill, don't we? Sooner or later we'll get something, so we're expecting it. When things change, we're expecting that. It's normal. It'd be really strange if nobody ever got ill. If we just went through life with no aches and pains, no illness, no changes, if your car never went rusty, your house always looked perfect for 50 years, no cracks, no fading paintwork. If nothing went wrong, nothing changed, nothing needed repairing, you'd find it very strange. It's actually the norm is change. Things age, things go wrong, things need repairing, things need replacing. Eventually we won't be here. Eventually I won't be here. In fact, only on Monday I won't be here. There'll be another monk. Next week there'll be another monk sitting here telling you the same things. None of us will be here one day. You have to remind yourself of that. Not to become depressed and think, oh, I'm not going to be here, life is terrible. But just so you know the truth. So your mind is ready for these changes, for the way things are. So who deals with COVID the best? Buddhist meditators. Because COVID comes along and Buddhist meditators say, yeah, I was expecting that. Pandemic, illness, yeah, that's part of life. The government says can't travel, need tests and swabs and masks. Okay, yeah, I was expecting that. All the changes that come through COVID, we just expect it, don't we? We don't want it, but when it happens, we can deal with it as just part of life, part of the experience of life. And, one thing monks were saying at the beginning of COVID, they say, oh yeah, this too will pass. Now we're seeing it is sort of passing. It'll still be around in the world, but all the news is finishing and the rules, regulations are changing. People are going about their business more like they used to because things change. So even the worst things change. You can use that to help you. When you meet a crisis or a problem, you say, oh, one day this problem will change, it will be gone. Things change, they change for the better. Sometimes they change for the worse, sometimes they change from the worse back to the better. If you can see the true nature of things, then you don't stress about it. You just know, oh, this is the way it is. So, time is getting on. Time is not waiting for us, so maybe it's time for Sanghadana offering. Sadhu, sadhu.